While speaking to producers, we identified the milk producers because we are working with primary milk producers who are concerned about the same issues, but we identified that it would be good to have a private labeling or GI to increase, to have this standard of quality, so people can pay, can know what they're buying, like Santissimo or Santino, and pay for it. But it doesn't mean that you have to, prohibit something. You have just tried to know that there is one thing and there is another thing. It's fine. Yeah, and the other one that there are also some measures we should be taking, because the issue this year is the powder milk is twice cheaper than the last 5 years at least, so that's why the prices drop. But we are working with the primary producers to increase their competitiveness and decrease their cost, because we made an audit of the market last year and it showed that actually with the application of right technologies, we don't speak about the infrastructure improvements or buying new equipment, but just the methods of production of milk. It also includes animal feeding. So the producers can increase their production and the quality also, so in the food safety and the safety of the meat at the same time, at least 50% when improving their production technologies without major capital investments. But we are speaking now about the intensive farms who has the stable feeding, like we are not speaking about roads and the traditional things. So I don't think that we have to be, that prices, when improving the food safety, the prices will go up immediately. But we have to work with the first value chain role, like the primary producers and the suppliers also in the case of animal feeding.
Okay, thank you for this. And I will comment also on that, because for some other reasons we have studied the raw milk production in Georgia, and you know that, maybe you should know that we have very scarce sources of raw milk. You cannot find enough raw milk in Georgia in order to satisfy the consumption needs of the population. That's why we are importing milk powder and producing from it the cheese. I can tell you the Santino case. The Santino is producing its product, Santino products, from raw milk. It is very expensive, and their profit margin on that is very low, because the raw milk is very expensive in Georgia. They are collecting this raw milk even from Svaneti region. So we have studied this case with Santino for other reasons, to study the milk products market in Georgia. And that's why, of course, you cannot prevent producing the cheese from the imported milk powder. We do not have enough raw milk in Georgia in order to satisfy even local production needs. So that's why. But I agree with you that when I was talking that we should raise the awareness among the consumers, that is the right way to deal with that problem. The consumers, all our milk products have the labeling, which indicates is it produced from raw milk or not. That's why I know that Santino is produced from raw milk and Sante is not, or any other product. And that's why I am buying Santino product. So we should raise awareness of consumers to study the labeling very closely and to choose the product they would like to consume. At this stage of development of Georgia, that is the right way to deal with that problem.
So, I completely do agree with you, Marika. This is the voluntary way of putting not just the mandatory information into your labels, but also voluntary information, as long as it is true and not misleading. consumer awareness, raising consumer awareness, who would do it? Unfortunately, because of this shortage of milk, is the association, which association? Dairy Association, not even Anna Mikatsa's Cheese Association. Are they really willing to go for it? If they have a danger that some of their products might need the GM powder because they have shortage of the milk. So this is the problem, and I would have hoped that Leah would be here, but there is a task for some consumer protection NGOs. Right now I see very difficult that our dairy association, the big dairies association, or even the small cheesemakers association would unify their forces to start that kind of a thing. Sorry for that. So that is the situation right now. I have seen this happening some I haven't seen, but I have read this happening some 120 years ago in many countries where the first periods of surplus started, and then the situation is so much better. Then you
In few years in Georgia also the situation will be better. That is for sure. But we need time, step by step, to approximate our legislation to URPs and to implement and enforce it.
It might be on the system of consumer protection.
My name is David Kuladze. I'm the Senior Business Development Officer in the SECOPS Alliances Lesser Caucasus Program. I'm working directly with dairy enterprises together with Lela. So we have, like Lela said, we have approximately like 30 enterprises in the Concord, Samsung, and Najara. In my 5 years experience in the dairy sector, as I'm looking how they develop, what is how the legislation of Georgia goes forward in this sector. This the first time, like this year, some of our clients said that they are thinking about big powder because there is unfair competition, as I can say again. This import, as Ms. Katerina just said, increased in this period, like starting from January, and added some other countries along with Ukraine, just like other countries added to the list of this powder production and import to Georgia. And this unfair competition, yes, labeling, of course labeling, first of all labeling should be done with cheese, but we know that people in Georgia, most of people living under this poverty line, and they look for the price rather than for the label. So this demand on the cheese, which is sold in so-called agricultural markets in Tbilisi, for example, the biggest market in Georgia, is high demand on the cheese which is sold on the streets, I think. So the clients which are sold the cheese, branded cheese in supermarkets, they are some kind of okay, let's say. Carrefour, Goodwill, Mother Muni. We had just 7 months ago, we carried out the research of Georgian supermarkets. We researched 31 branches in Georgia, starting from Carrefour, Goodwill, Mandagoni, Orina, BG, Nikora, a lot of others as well, and we identified that there is, as far as I remember, there is 11 Georgian companies representing supermarkets which have labeled branded cheese. 25 companies has more than 25% unbranded cheese, unlabeled cheese, in most cases labeled and packed by supermarkets themselves. As I can say, what can I say about, I'm interested about this DCFTA agreement. What does it say about raw milk and the milk powder. I don't know exactly the context of this agreement, but what can it say about, what does it say about this milk powder? How, it's only raw milk should be processed and the cheese should be exported to EU, or it can be powdered cheese as well. So how can it be?
Of course,
We should push this agriculture if we want
so
to.
I'm not an expert in food safety, Martin can also react on that, but according to the DCFTA does not, and you also do not have such a requirement. When you are entering with the product to the European Union market or to any other market, especially for the European Union, first of all, what is matter is the food safety. The products coming from the milk powder, if they are safe, and they are safe, if they are the production is safe, then it's okay. So you can, and by the way, it is much easier now to export cheese produced from milk powder to the EU market. It will be easier to satisfy the food safety requirements than for the cheese produced from the raw milk. Because for that, we will need, Marty agree with me.
Not quality requirements.
No, food safety.
Yes.
So,
yes, sure. For raw milk for cheese produced from the raw milk to export to the EU market, we will need several years.
Yes.
It is easier to do that with the milk powder prepared cheese. Yes, Martin?
Well,
what it says exactly if we...
well, unfortunately, this is an issue that this is very, I do agree, Marika, in theory, yes.
In practice also,
No, not in practice. In practice, no, you have to be in the list of third countries.
yeah, sure. That is why I am saying that it is, we will need several times
Yes, but meaning that...
to be in that list
meaning
for
that-
raw
No,
milk.
but you also with the powder milk, cheese. It is, the problem is that we don't have a specific sort of group of products which are products of animal origin without animal health issues. And that is, I do agree, from theoretical point of view, it is a bureaucratical reason. We have tried to discuss this with Raghunas and he doesn't want to say anything. So,
I always argue with Raghunas and with you on that. because the DCFTA envisaged the recognition of one establishment and not the whole sector. So the EU can recognize one establishment in the country, and if that establishment prepares the cheese from the milk powder,
yes.
you can recognize it.
Yeah, but still it has to be part of the system of the control, and that's where the control system
Of some level of
covers.
control
Yes,
should be in place.
and of course, it would be great if we could make Georgia as one example how to do it, but so far we haven't found a way how to avoid the list of third country for products of animal origin.
Follow-up question. In case we have a foreign investor bringing new investment and standards, would it shorten, let's say, the period of
We already have a new investor. So, yes, sorry, just to answer and then you can comment.
Regarding with cloud, as this discussion started, we are here around 20 people. I want to really ask, if you have choice between the cheese produced from milk powder and from the raw milk, and both are safe, what would you choose?
I will choose raw milk, but
It depends on price for many people.
definitely to identify as well.
I am choosing the raw milk products, but they cannot afford that.
We have to understand that cheese which is made from milk powder is different, which is made from the raw milk, because of the quality
to consumer what to choose. It is up to consumer what to choose. They should have a choice. They choose from raw milk products and choose from the milk powder. And then the consumer will choose which one to buy. It will depend on price or many other things.
Okay, that's why I asked, we have here 20 people, how many people prefer to have the cheese made from the milk powder? Even among this group, if you ask, I think.
If you have a choice and if you have ability to buy raw milk, of course you would go to buy raw milk.
If you
Rather
can
than-
have-
but the reality, quality definitely, yeah, and safety. But unfortunately, the statistics show that people do not have access to food, and we are now talking about not what to put on the table. But also, I just want to make a very brief intervention regarding the DCFTA prospect and what we have gathered here about that. Georgia has an ambition that at some point we would export our goods and the cheese products outside of Georgia. But I think what, as a result of these discussions, what we all agree is that we do not have capacity at this very stage to produce the raw milk even for our own consumption. And I think it's a very good point to start thinking about how to increase the production of raw milk in the first place, rather than thinking about the export potentials and taking cheese outside the country. And even if we can manage that, how to expect to compete with Parmigiano Reggiano and really sophisticated cheese brands who have already become a part of the European culture? And I think we need to be realistic on that as well. And first of all, package and brand Georgian cheese for our own, we need to become the own ambassadors of our own cheese, because up until now we don't even know what we have and what capacity does Georgia have in terms of producing really interesting and really exotic cheese products. So I think this is something that also needs to be taken into consideration, other than of course tackling those hygienic and veterinary challenges, which is no doubt one of the main starting points as well.
And also, if there will be demand on the raw milk, amount of raw milk will increase.
Sorry?
If will be demand on raw milk.
Well, I mean, the reason people demand raw milk, yeah, is that it's more naturally because it's more healthy than the less processed.
Exactly, we should make some protection how to decrease number of powder milk used in our vehicles and increase demand on the raw milk.
So first of all, I would like to say a couple of words. First, that Georgia is, I'm from a very small country, cannot produce Parmigiano Emilianos or whatever camemberts for the whole world. When I was in Mario, we stopped making our own camembert when we agreed with the one French company who made the whole month's consumption of, one company made the whole month's consumption of camembert in half an hour in this factory. So we didn't want to do that. But we are selling to France some very small amounts of very niche products with high price. And that is of course Georgia's future. There is no bulk products coming from Georgia to EU. They always are small and it's difficult to get them to be known. You have to go directly to big supermarket chains and get there to fight for the shelf life there. But no bulk cheeses, no way. Protection against powder, that has been asked for whatever years, 2-3 years. In theory, there is a mechanism acceptable by the WTO and EU, which is the temporary measures against exceptional market disturbances. You have to justify that this is an exceptional market disturbance and not a permanent endemic position. And it's not easy to justify that this is something
It's
which
not
will
in
go
case in
over.
Georgia.
So that for this kind of a thing, the protection mechanisms against powder, it's not very easy to get through, not just EU, but even WTO. Powder as a product is going to be always more expensive than raw milk. So starting business from here to Georgia based on powder just because it now happens to be cheaper, I don't see it's a long-term case. Basically, powder-based cheeses are not very common in the world market. You either sell very cheap cheese paste and powder separately, but to make the powder, the expensive powder, dry it as powder, then make it into cheese, and then make it to some purpose where you use it as a cheese paste for pizzas or whatever. Somehow my economical thinking doesn't see any sense in there. Okay, maybe right now when the powder is cheap, but how long?
Okay, thank you, Martin.
And
If
that
there
is
is,
the reason why we need standards also. If there will be mentioned that this cheese should be done by the sheep which is grown in the mountains of Georgia, not by the cow of the Ukrainian cow which was milked in the Ukraine and then Poland and so on, when we will have standards proper for the product, it will be more or less regulated on the market. That's why we need standards.
yeah, I can argue with you, but we
is-
are
is it
out of
voluntary
time already.
Yes,
So-
I think about voluntary standards.
Sure, we have voluntary standards in Georgia, so we are,
They not enforce.
our standards based on voluntary nature.
Yes.
Yes.
Except the milk technical regulations.
Well,
which have
that's
a lot of,
technical and
a lot of
We have also
voluntary
technical
standards
regulations
there.
for nuts, so there are some of them.
Yes.
So maybe if there is no other,
Actually, I'm not going to continue the discussion. What I want to suggest, because it's a very big topic, and as I see lots of going on, and everyone has their own opinion, and to summarize, let's say our discussion, I would really encourage you, if you have some comments regarding the recommendations that were produced by ECA and PNIDO, we will once again disseminate the recommendations via email to all of you, and probably maybe if you could have some time for another 2 days or 3 days to submit your written recommendation, then our experts will incorporate and consider your recommendation into the paper. Also, they will incorporate the recommendations that were kindly provided by Mr. Maki as well. And the final paper will be also disseminated to you, which at the end will be submitted to the Ministry of Economy and Food Safety Agency.
So the final beneficiary of the paper is the Ministry of Economy and Food Safety.
Food Safety Agency, yeah, and the Ministry of Agriculture supervises the National Food Safety Agency as such.
Thank you very much. Thank you for active contribution and thank to our experts.
So we will also disseminate the presentations as well. And you can also check all the papers on the project website. You will get the link of the